Looks like we got a few people coming on in, so we'll go ahead and start getting going here. So you guys know how this works. Most people that are here have been here multiple times. We always want to start out setting the tone, putting us on a good trajectory, celebrating any wins, good things that have happened in the business, even personally, that's fine too. Good things that have happened in the last little bit. You don't know who needs to hear it, how it might help, and it's really valuable. And then in the later part of the call, we will get into questions, things that are itching your mind. We already got one kind of queued up, but be thinking about that. But in the meantime, any wins, any good things, go ahead and unmute and tell us what's good, what's happening.
I'll raise my hand. I had kind of a lull in calls, a little bit of a lull, and Travis, I shared this with you yesterday, in converting into jobs. And day before yesterday, I landed a $57,000 kitchen remodel just before the holidays. So it was exactly what I needed to give myself a shot in the arm.
That's perfect. Awesome, man. Really glad for that, John. Where did they come from, that lead?
So it's kind of an interesting story. I did about 2 blocks away from my house. I did 4 rooms for my sister and brother-in-law. I had a yard sign in their yard. I picked up a basement office conversion right next door to them. I picked up a kitchen right across the street from them, and then I got a basement, a massive kitchen, and 2 bathrooms from the house right next door to them. So it's kind of like world domination, 1 block at a time, you know?
Yeah, that's awesome. It's really interesting how we can undervalue even simple things like yard signs, how much that does in branding on your vehicles whenever you're doing a job.
Yard signs, branding on the vehicles, a door hanger saying, "Hey, pardon my chaos next door. Thanks for your patience with your neighbor's remodel. Here's $10 Starbucks gift card. Copies on me."
Yeah, those are incredible.
Yeah. Love that, John. Great reminder for everybody. And for you remodelers, if you want your yard sign to stand out, if it has like a wood base or something that's different than like the pickets, something that makes it stand out a little bit more. But that is so underrated, John. Or just having your guys even walk over with the gift card and say, "Hey, we're so sorry to bother you guys. Really appreciate you putting up with us. If you ever need anything, have any problems, let us know." Enjoy.
Yeah, I mean, even like catching a neighbor at the end of their driveway saying, "Hey, I know the dumpster's ugly, but if you've got some crap in your garage, feel free to throw it in there."
It goes a long way. It goes a long way. And that's honestly the way that people want to find their contractors, is that way. It's kind of like going to Google is kind of the equivalent of if you're single doing online dating compared to like meeting somebody in the wild. Like, people want to meet somebody in the wild. People want to meet their contractor through a referral, through, oh, they did my house next door, and so it's so underrated. And really, that's a great testimonial and encouragement for everybody else here. If you're not doing those things, do those things.
I had to order more yard signs. My goal on Catalina Street is maybe 6 yard signs at the same time. That would be awesome.
Yes. Bren, I see your hand up.
Yeah, we've been working on Google reviews, and yesterday we had 13, and we have 30 as of this morning. So that was awesome, and we're really grateful for that.
Yes.
Man, I had to text Bryn yesterday. He was blowing up my phone with all these new reviews coming in. We just talked about it, and he's like, "Yeah, it just took a little bit of effort." And now Bryn and Jordan have been just taking off, getting a bunch of reviews. And they're remodelers, by the way, for those that don't know. So just some encouragement that you can get plenty of reviews quick enough. How did you go about getting these reviews, just for kicks and giggles? Is it friends and
Jordan
family?
did most of it. So my brother Jordan, partner on the business, he sent out some mass texts to the family and friends and past clients. A lot of work, we've done work for a lot of family, and so said, "Hey, go blow it up. Don't blow smoke, but blow it up." And they blew some smoke, so that was great. I'm sure all of it's true, but no, we just said, hey, if we didn't do work for you, don't say we did. But if you like us, you appreciate us, you know we do good work, you know, let people know, and tell us about it on Google. So I know Jordan sent some mass texts out, called and talked to everybody he knew, talked to our realtor, talked to every plumber and the painter and all the subs that we've used, and just said, all right, today's the day, let's get it done. We'd kind of just halfway done it in the past, just a text here or there, random. But yesterday he got after it, and I think it might have been the third or fourth time we had asked somebody yesterday, and they finally just did it. So just consistency.
Yeah.
Love that.
Perfect. Beautiful. Jordan, you're a stud.
Yeah. What other wins do we have going on today, guys?
Well, I've got a win.
Tell
that,
us, Jason.
It was during our last meeting. I was kind of texting Nicole during this because we kind of had some crap hitting the fan, and she's been wanting me to get rid of this one guy, and I was kind of fighting it off because I felt like he was a grumpy guy, but he was very knowledgeable. And I had just come to my point to where we had to let him go. And so I let him go the next morning, so last Friday. And man, this week has been good. Everyone's been coming in. They're just saying, hey, it's really nice that we don't have to, we don't have to worry about coming in and listening to this guy complain all the time. My estimator, my project manager is saying, hey, this guy is texting me like 4 times an hour, like, he can't get a screw out of a wall or something simple like that, And so everyone's very appreciative of it. Everyone was extremely rattled when I did it. But now that the weekend's over and they've kind of have been there and he's not there, and the stress relief that's happened has just been unbelievable. And we were able to hire someone on Monday who can do drywall so far just as good. And we're still kind of training him and watching over him, but got rid of a guy that was kind of a problem for us, and was able to turn around and get a new guy. So Nicole, you're very smart, and thank you.
Well, Jason, thank you for being diligent. That's a huge win. And usually it takes just one time to really realize one bad apple can be really spoiling the bunch. Like, you don't know if you're noticing the negative attitude, if you're noticing the negative comments, I promise it's 20 times worse when you're not around. And so your team is really taking the brunt of that, and it could really be weighing on them. And always be hiring, always be looking, so that we never feel like we're held captive by somebody like that. We've got somebody coming down the pipeline. So Jason, I appreciate you trusting the process, and I'm excited to hear that things are feeling a lot better.
Yeah.
David, I see your hand up. Do you have a win or?
I want to add something real quick before you jump in there, David. Something that I think is really valuable too from what Jason said. Nicole emphasized a lot of it, but at Redwood Growth, we're going to be very hesitant to tell you that you should let somebody go. We're eyes from afar off. We're not seeing day to day. So if that's going to be our indication to tell you. If you have this gut feeling that you need to let somebody go, that's when we're going to say, hey, you might probably need to let this person go. So if you're feeling it and your coach tells you, it's not said lightly. We don't say those things lightly. So really glad you're able to make that move, and it's been really good for you, Jason. All right. Sorry, David. I know I cut you off, but I wanted to get that in there. What do you got, sir?
No worries. Yeah, I'm pretty excited. I've been persistent with a bunch of clients, and last week I'm actually on my way for a kickoff meeting. We landed a $139,000 renovation from storm damage in St. Petersburg. So I've been kind of refining my process with like 3 or 4 clients, and then this one came through. So I'm excited. And I also wanted to mention that one of the big things that happened for me in this process was bringing on a good general manager for the cruise. And so we're launching now with them. So now I'm just working on, controlling and monitoring more in my business. So thank you for keeping me accountable on all this, and I'm seeing successes come in with persistence.
Wow, that's awesome, David. I think you're pretty fresh too. Like within a month, of starting to work here or work with us?
Yes. Yes.
Awesome, man. Really glad to hear that.
Any other wins? I see a hand up. Michael.
Yes. So now with the projections coming to the end of the year, kind of knowing what we have in the pipeline, I can honestly say we had our best year to date, up about 10% on gross, and profits are up as well. Don't have final percentages on that, but I was able to take a good chunk of some profits earlier this month confidently, so that felt good. Yeah, feeling good about the end of the year.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing, Michael.
Yeah.
Any other wins? Clay?
We're right there with Michael. We've doubled from last year.
Wow.
Woo!
Yes, Clayton.
Yeah. So we this will be the first year that I can breathe a sigh of relief.
Yeah. Yeah. And quite a bit more profitable this year over last year, right, Clayton? It's not just revenue growth.
Yeah, we are at the 30 to 32% threshold
Yeah.
from
Huge.
15 last year, maybe 12.
It's
Sweet.
huge, Clayton.
So way better.
Love it. Yes. Love to hear it. Thanks for sharing so much, Clayton. And you guys got a deer over Thanksgiving. That's a win too. Went hunting, got a deer.
Yeah, we shot a bunch of those.
Yeah. Any other wins today, guys? Scott, tell us what's happening.
Well, we had our end of the year or close to end of the year meeting with our new accountant. So let me just put a plug in here for the new accountant. If you don't have a good accountant, talk to your coach and they will get you hooked up with Shane and he will hook you up and take care of you. And we're just thankful for having a great year. This is our first calendar year and we hit our goal of gross sales of $1 million. So just, yeah, great win.
That is huge, Scott. Yes, first calendar year, first year in business. They hit $1 million. Not only that, you guys started with electrical, you added plumbing in a given year. Scott's business partner, Rick, was full-time working for another company, is now full-time in the business, was able to leave that job. I mean, Scott, it's been an incredible year and I can't wait to see 2025. What's going to happen for you guys? Laura, appreciate you confirming. Just encouragement, yeah, guys. If your accountant is not actively reaching out to you, if you have to badger them, if they're not going over things with you, if they are constantly behind, get yourself a new one. I know that it's not fun and sometimes it can be intimidating to think about that or to want to, because I know that we don't, typically you don't feel like you're an expert in accounting, so you're just going to trust, oh well, they're accountant, let me just trust them. But if they aren't doing those things, it is so worth your while. There's really not a better investment than having a good accountant or bookkeeper. So do it. Dale, I see you in the chat here. You say your win is that your profit margin for this year is your win. If you could kind of type into the chat and elaborate on that. I want to say that your revenue this year is almost looking to be going to be the same as about last year, but your profits were up significantly. Will you type in the percentage of difference if you can? And then what other wins do we have going on today, guys?
Hey, Nicole, I couldn't agree with your comment more about a good accounting partner. I am so grossly overpaying for a high-powered, industry-specific accounting firm. All they do is remodeling and construction, and I know it's expensive, but I don't have any buyer's remorse. They are just kicking butt.
Love it.
It's worth it.
It's so worth the investment. You're 100% right. Yeah, if you're going for the cheapest, or a lot of times I'll have people say, well, when I got QuickBooks, they offered me like a free bookkeeper for 3 months. So I'm like, no, Don't
Yeah.
don't do that.
You get
Yeah.
what you pay for.
Yeah.
So my admin cost is like twice what it should be, but I'm going to grow into it, and they're going to help me get there.
Yeah. Love it. Dale, you just responded. Profit difference was 49% up this year over last. Revenue is the same. Big difference in the amount of profits. And so don't be so distracted. Don't be so focused on that revenue number that you neglect the profit number, because that's the one we care about. If you could do the same amount of work or less, but for more money, why the heck wouldn't you? So Dale, love that win. Any other wins today? Going once, going twice. Well, really appreciate you guys sharing the wins. We won't have group coaching next week, but we will have group coaching the following week, which will be the 2nd. And would love, I know that that's only 2 days out of December. So the chances of you guys having all of your numbers for 2024 might be a little bit rough. But if you have them, would love for you guys to come to this meeting to kind of celebrate revenue growth, profitability growth. We should be kind of wrapping up the year and getting an idea of what our numbers look like in comparison. Or even if you're just looking at like December last year to December this year. I know a lot of times winter's slow for a lot of people and they're having, a busier winter than ever. So come to that meeting on the 2nd with those wins if you got them. But just a reminder, we will not have group coaching next week. It's the day after Christmas. We will not be here. Okay, well, I know we kind of have a question queued up. Do we want to kind of kick it off with that one, Bryce, or open up the floor, or what would you like to do?
For sure. Yeah, we can start with that one and give people some space to think of more. But I don't remember who asked it. Travis, you might know better.
It was David.
Okay. But yeah, I had the question. Well, David, you just want to say it again? Recap what you had asked earlier?
Yes, I'm right now, I'm in the process of building up teams because I've got some clients that they've expressed to me they want to do multiple projects. So I'm in team formation mode, and I just wanted to you guys to elaborate on, as I'm building the teams, like right now today I'm giving the managers to all sign company policy that I have. But if you guys had any other pointers on setting up the teams, because profitability is what's the most important factor in the business. So I wanted to see what is the best approach to setting up the team to make sure we're more profitable on each project, and kind of the things that in your guys' experience to look out for.
Nice. Yeah, for sure. So a lot of different avenues to go into with this. David, I don't know your business exactly. I assume you're remodeler type, and these are project managers you're talking about, or are these laborers?
Yeah, well, we
Who's the
do
team you're
two
talking about?
different types of work. We do remodels, but they're large scale from storm damage. So they're basically, $100,000 and up remodels. And then we also do new construction. But the remodel teams are put together to, we take those guys and use them in the new construction projects. So remodels really cash flow for us. And then the new construction is our bread and butter.
Okay.
And then the flip homes are also a side of the business, which is like a large scale renovation. So that's the model.
Okay, sweet. So I'll offer one or two things and then open it up, and if other people want to chime in things that they found important or helpful in kind of building up a team, because I know there's a few people here that have probably done that, or you've had to go from having a staff to maybe rebuilding the whole structure. The main thing that I will say is going to be most important to fixing profitability, efficiency, and all of these things is actually really going to be communication. The biggest breakdown in almost every business that we work with happens in that area, because even though you guys are communicating constantly all day with your project lead, anything like that, that's not the same as having a set meeting recurring with your team. If that's a daily huddle in the morning to get people started, or especially with your project managers, having a weekly time where you review each project by name and where you're at what's the to-dos for that week, and so on and so forth. So the main thing that I would really emphasize is setting a time that you're going to be communicating with your team that's not just a text thread or something like that, but that sets people off on a really strong trajectory. That'd be my main piece to rebuilding the team. I'm going to put 2 links in the chat here for some documents. So let me
And David, one concern that you brought up that it seemed to me as as a business coach, it is the most important. And I think you kind of briefly mentioned it, is I want to make sure that by adding these people to my team, I'm still profitable. And I think a lot of our clients get to that stage when they start to hire leadership and they kind of step out. They're like, oh my gosh, this is another, this is another thing to my payroll or another sub that I'm now adding. What I really encourage with clients is, okay, every time you add an employee, you really need to define their KPIs. We call them key performance indicators. What that means is by adding this employee, adding this payroll, adding this expense, what do they need to produce? What do they need to bring in order for them to really be paying for themselves and for it to make sense here? And so for a lot of my clients, when they hire like a project manager or a crew lead and they kind of step out a little bit, we've got to make sure that we're essentially able to do kind of double the amount of work in the same amount of time by adding that person. And that's what's going to allow that person to pay for themselves and allow the business to grow. If you hire on a crew lead or a project manager and you're doing the same amount of work when you didn't have them, you are going to be less profitable. That's not going to grow the company. And so that's what I would really define, David, is, what revenue do we need to bring in with me adding these people in order for it to make sense? Any client feedback on this topic? Clayton.
Make sure they're held accountable. Whoever you put in the leadership role, you got to hold them accountable for what they're doing. That's something that I've seen that's been the most important thing of us putting teams together, is whoever is in the leadership role, you got to hold them accountable.
Absolutely.
That's the biggest thing that I've seen. You can put team members together and get them to work together, and you may have a really good team, but if you don't have a really good leader, they're not going to be a really good team.
Yep.
Yeah, totally agree. That accountability is key. I think there's two sides to that coin. You got to set expectations. What are we wanting them to do? Here's the checklist, the tools you need to do it. Here's, if they don't know what they're doing, or if you just find yourself constantly telling them and repeating yourself, you probably should write it down somewhere and give it to them. This is my expectations for you. This is your job description. This is kind of your day-to-day, your week-to-week outline. And then the other side of that coin is holding them accountable to it. And if you've given them the tools, given them the training, giving them the checklist, and then you are holding them accountable and it's still not happening, then they might be a bad fit. But those are the 2 coins. If you want to really manage that position well, get the most out of the position, you need to set expectations and then hold accountable.
Yep. I think both of those points as well really go inside. They're all kind of building on each other and having that regular ability to be able to hold accountable and having those set key points that you're measuring the people against and having the expectations set. It doesn't happen in sporadic communication. It's in one ear, out the other, in the got-a-minute meetings and the text and phone call conversations. So having that rhythm as well is really something that can't be overemphasized.
Maria, I see your hand up.
Hello. I just wanted to comment, since I'm an employee, we do Monday and Friday meetings, and then like all of us, and then me and Riley do like a Wednesday meeting, but that might just be like a set aside time where we talk on the phone or do a Zoom call. It's not necessarily like in person. But I will say, like, from the employee side of things, like having those set meetings are so nice, just to be like, okay, here's a rundown of the list I need. And then I'm left alone between those meetings to actually get things done. And I'm not bothered throughout the day. Oh, hey, can you do this? Oh, hey, I need this thing. I already have the list of what I need to do. I just need to go get it done. So I will say that too. Like once you set the standard, leave them alone and let them do their job if they're doing it well.
Preach, Maria, preach.
And they'll
I mean,
do it in reverse.
yes, that's exactly it, Bryce. Is not only is Maria, the employee, now left alone with clear actions of what she needs to take care of, so are you, the business owner. No more got-a-minute meetings. And sometimes I see the business owner being the culprit of that. If you're constantly bombarding your project manager or your office manager with, hey, can you do this? Hey, can you do that? So you're sending texts, calls, emails. They're going to respond to you in the same way. But if we have a set time daily or a couple times a week where they know they're going to have your undivided attention, let's direct everything but real emergencies. Let's get very clear of what emergency is to those meetings and get so stubborn about that. And it's going to allow you and them to be so much more productive with your days outside of those meetings. Great feedback, Maria. David, any questions about kind of what we've talked about? Do you feel like you got some clear actions? Want more?
Yeah, just to recap, so establishing a meeting, team huddle,
Yep.
weekly meetings, and then also making sure that you set the culture of like productivity during those meetings so that it's not like constantly reaching out to people, but they're coming back with times and specifics of actionable steps. So I think just creating more structure in that process. And then also the other thing you touched on that I think is really important is like when you bring on a team, is the value that they're adding to it. Do you have enough volume to support it? And is it really going to give that?
Right. Is it going to pay for itself? Yeah. Yeah, and if anybody needs help defining those KPIs, please talk to your coach. We can absolutely help you define that. Okay, this is how much you're planning on paying them. This is how much we need to be producing in order for that to make sense. This is your average ticket, and so this is how many jobs we need to be running in order to produce that per month. You know, like we love breaking down those KPIs because it makes it so tangible. And it's tangible for you. And then you also need to share it with your team. They need a scoreboard. Give them the expectations. If they don't know what they're supposed to be producing, if they don't know their goals, how are they supposed to hit it? They're blind, you know? And so first thing is us defining it together and then sharing it with the team so that they can really, set those targets. And going into the first of the year is a great time to do this. It's a great time to do it for the company, for employees. Revisiting KPIs is huge, kind of going into a new year.
Yeah. Any other feedback from those that have gone before from building that new team? Any clients want to have anything to interject here on doing it well?
You guys are 100% right. 200% right.
Love it, Jordan. Love it. I feel like that's the choir in the background,
Take that from someone who I feel like I've been really hard-headed about this last year. And, it's finally like fitting together for me. And so, I've got this little note up here that profit is not an event, it's a habit. And, I really think of when you guys say all these things, these are the habits that we have to form, because profit's not a magic event. It comes from having good habits and doing all the things that you guys just mentioned. So take it from the one with the thickest skull here.
I think that was a direct quote from Mike Michalowicz, who wrote the book Profit First. And if you guys have not read Profit First, highly encourage it. All of the coaches here are certified Profit First professionals. You probably, out of the 29 people on this call, you probably at least have a dozen who are implementing Profit First and are benefiting from it. And profit is absolutely a habit. Into next year, really important to define our big goals, our revenue goals, our profit goals, those types of things, our average ticket goals. But talking about habits, habits are what gets us to those goals. And so I love to set progress goals. What are the things that we need to do day to day, week to week, month to month in order to hit that big goal? If all we do is focus on that big goal, it can be really hard to break it down. It can seem really far off. It can seem like we're failing. But if we break it down into progress goals, it gives you a lot more realistic tasks and habits, for lack of a better word, for you to be implementing, that's all going to lead you to that big goal. What other questions do we have here today, guys? Issues we're running into? Michael,
Go
what's
ahead,
going
Mike.
on?
So I have a basic question here. Maybe it's rudimentary, but I'm feeling
Probably not.
maybe. I'm hearing everybody throw out profit margins, and I'm feeling vastly less than. And I'm wondering how are you guys calculating your profit margins? Are you including your principal pay? Are you including, owner salary? Or is it what's left over after? I haven't been in a position to kind of start running the 60-40 rule where I'm taking only 60% of my salary and the rest would be in taking profits out. So I haven't done that yet, but how are you guys calculating your profits? Are you including your salary?
Nice. I'll let others speak to that and then chime in. I think it was Dale that shared, and who else was saying their profit margin, Michael, that you were tipped off to?
I want to say it was Clayton, whomever was at 34%.
Yeah.
Remember the percentage. Don't remember the person.
Go ahead, Clayton.
So I mean, Nicole is the one that helped set us up, but we do 30-70. And we do the profit first steps. And we started out, I mean, I've been with you guys for 2 years, I think, year and a half, almost 2 years. And we started out at like 12% return on, is what we was making profitable on. And your question to ask if I take my what I pay myself out of it. So we take 100% of whatever comes in, and we take 30% of that, and we divide that up over what is shared out into our other accounts with the profit first accounts. Is the way we do it, and that's on the profit first scale. Is the way we do it. When you run your back office that they give you to show you that your jobs are profitable or not, it's going to help you a lot to understand that, if you're only making 12%, where are you going wrong? Our two biggest things were, we were not, sorry, we got a generator running. Our two biggest things were, we wasn't taking in consideration in change orders when we were doing the jobs, and it was always the buddy thing. Oh yeah, I'm here. I'll just get that for you. That was where we were losing money. And then we were losing money with our, the things that we were being able to get done are, we wasn't getting enough stuff done. That was the two big places we were losing money. And the change orders was my fault, and productivity was the guy's fault. We got rid of those guys, got people in to get productivity done. I put a property or a manager in to manage the projects, and with that, and then
The working agreement, I feel like, is a game changer for you, Clayton, with setting expectations for
no, that was a lifesaver, not a game
Yeah.
changer.
Yeah.
Lifesaver. It literally a lifesaver. It's the working agreement has this year alone saved us 3 different times. So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
Good to know.
Yeah, Michael,
Thank you.
something to lean into with your coach. And there so many of it, just I can talk about my clients here who will fix the profitability problem for a while. The business hits a new season of growth. Maybe the profit starts going down a little bit, and we have to dive back into it again, really lean into it. It's not a one-trick pony solves everything forever. That's why we have to be paying attention to it at all times. And it's going to be something that you're always looking at. And I would say that's a business owner activity. You as a business owner, that's so important. That's a key thing. So don't feel like you're behind. It's something that you always be looking at and paying attention to.
Good to know. Thank you.
Yep. And I'll say from the technical perspective, as far as like calculating or determining how you would say what your profit margin is, it's a little bit tricky because there's two terms that use the same word, being profit. There's the gross profit, and then there's your net profit or net operating income. Net operating income is after you also include your owner's compensation and any sort of like fixed costs. So that one's going to typically be smaller. Your gross profit will be a bit larger. That's just after materials and direct costs, variable costs that go in. So there's two technically profit numbers, and some people might share one or the other. So I don't know what Dale might have been sharing, but that might give some.
Well, what Dale was sharing was the like amount of money growth. It's not like he's pulling like a 49% profit now compared to last year. It's like the amount of money grew that much. So to clarify, it was a
I got
49%
it.
difference in the amount.
Okay.
I don't know if we have any clients who are pulling a 50% profit. If you are, I'm very curious how you're
Yeah.
doing that.
Really appreciate that
Clarification. Yeah. I would
Feeling
say
better.
what the target, like when you're looking at your profit and loss statement, you're looking at things, we typically want business owners after they pay themselves, unless you're paying yourself like a ludicrous salary, 15 to 20% profit is very healthy after you pay yourself. Like that's beautiful. And so that's the kind of the target we want to look at.
Okay.
And that gets at your question there. I think it's Rose with remodeling wizards.
Yeah.
Exactly that.
Yeah,
About 20% is kind of ideal. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. And you got to think about that. Like why we don't include what you're paying yourself as profit is because if you weren't doing what you're doing for the company, you would be paying somebody else to do it. So you're still a cost of goods sold. You're still an employee, so what you pay yourself isn't profit unless you're, again, paying yourself like a ludicrous amount, or something, which I really don't think anybody here is. I've never really ran into that issue with clients. So, 15 to 20% is a really good margin. John, I see your hand up.
Yeah, actually, you just answered my question. I am targeting 15 to 20, maybe 22% NOI, and it's been a struggle over the last year and a half. My gross profit may be 1 or 2% higher every month as I lean into it, as I get more leads and I can afford to be more aggressive. So if 15 or 20% is kind of an okay industry standard net bottom line, that's great.
Yep. And if you want to dive deeper into it, just bring it to your coach, so we can kind of look at the numbers and know for sure.
Yeah, Travis and I will be diving into it when the pile gets bigger.
Good. I'm glad. And also to keep in mind, guys, like at the end of the year, when your accountant gives you like, this is how much money you had in profit. And if you look at that and you're like, where the hell is that money? What happened here? Profit First is really going to help fix that. It's totally okay, especially in certain seasons of the business, to like invest money back into the business. A lot of times we see profit go in to pay off debt. We even encourage that to take profit. You just want to make note of it. We never like being at the end of the year and saying, where the heck is that money? It just means that we're probably spending it as it comes in, and we just need to keep track of it a little bit better so we can be more intentional with that and know what's going on with it. Jordan, I see your hand up over here. What's going on, guys?
How do you guys have procedures for callbacks and how you handle that with employees? For example, like there was a job I just went to last night just to check in on, supposed to be done. Actually, customers already paid us on it, but the project in total for the customer is not completed. And they called me and said, hey, there's some loose ends here. And I went there and there's light switches hanging out of the wall. There's outlets that are missing. And like I was very, very clear, like this is the last time we are here. We are done. Everything is completed when we leave here anymore. And so like I mean, typically in the past, like I just fix the stuff myself, but I mean, I know there's got to be a way to do it effectively with your team. And I know with like Nicole, when we went over this, she was like, send it back unpaid to fix it. And I'm like, I don't know if I can do that, but I don't know if you guys have any other procedures with how you do that, how you handle callbacks.
Nicole's devious little, you can.
I love the carrot and stick method too.
Yeah.
You know, like I think having that in the write-up policy where it's like, hey, if you're consistently getting called back out, you need to do it on your own time. Or if you want to be conservative, we can give a minimum wage for it. But I like to just, we already paid you once to do it right. You need to go back. I like the own your shit environment. You need to own your shit. We already paid you once to do it. Now, if it's somebody in training, if it's like a fluke thing, that's different. We won't punish them for that. If it's a pattern, I saw Bryce just put our write-up policy on the chat. It also has the callback policy on it. But another thing that you can do, and I think this is just good practice, is having a carrot and a stick. Hey, if you have a month where you don't have any callbacks, you're going to get a blank bonus. Like this is, $100 on your check, whatever it is, like set that amount. If you do get called back out, here's the punishment. Whether it's you have to go take care of it on your own time or you're getting deducted for a certain amount. Maybe it's every callback you get deducted $50 or whatever, you don't get paid or something. Having a carrot and a stick. If you do not have a carrot and a stick, you will probably not see people change because it's a lot easier for people to stay the same. So unless they know that there's a reward or a consequence, they're probably not going to take any action. And studies do show that people tend to take action more so to avoid pain compared to gaining pleasure. And so you can't just have the carrot. You have to have the stick too. And so I would do the write-up in the callback policy. I would also have some type of, consequence and have a incentive to encourage the correct behaviors.
It's a great idea.
I guess I'm specifically asking, like, do you like publicly in like a team meeting, like go over stuff like that? Or do you just deal with the person individually?
You go over it as a team and then deal with them.
I mean, the stuff, what sucks is it's like the stuff grand total might take 15 minutes, but nonetheless, it's like no way to do a job in Omaha, Nebraska with as far spread out as shit is. And it not take 2 hours by the time you drive, take your stuff off the van, clean up.
They're going to get really annoyed, Jordan, about doing that on their own time. And so they're going to freaking stop doing it. They're going to stop having the callbacks because it's going to be annoying to them, just as it's annoying to you. And so it's going to be something that they learn. And I would absolutely be keeping track of people's callbacks on either a spreadsheet, on a whiteboard, and I would be reviewing it with the team every single week. This is how many Google reviews you got. This is how many jobs you went out on. This is how much money you brought in. This is your average ticket. This is your callbacks. A little bit of competitiveness in the workplace is not a bad thing. It's highly encouraged. We love having a scoreboard. And so I would definitely be going over it with the team. Now, if it's a reoccurring problem and you're going over it with the team, you do need to pull that person aside and set expectations with them and let them know, hey, this is a pattern. I've got to see it break, or eventually it's just not going to be worth, you're killing profits for the company. It's causing us to not be able to book jobs because you're having to go back out, but hopefully once or twice of them realizing I'm going to have to fix my shit and not get paid for it, they're probably going to correct the behavior because it's annoying to them just like it's annoying to you.
Lots of people popped up on hands in the conversation. Bryn, I know you've had your hand up, but I know some of these people might have just had a comment to Jordan or a response to Jordan. So if you had a response to Jordan, you can go ahead and unmute and go for it. Otherwise, I'll let Bryn go for his question.
Yeah, I was just going to say, we're tightening up these same types of approaches, not just for W-2s, but for 1099 subs as well.
100%.
I mean, it makes no difference if you've got your own tools and your own truck and you function independently. You're still working for me while you're on the job. So anyway.
100%.
Yeah, the standards are the standards of the company that bears the name of the project.
Yep.
Yeah. Aaron with Albuquerque, do you have a comment on this? I know we just talked about this, I want to say yesterday we met, and so it's probably fresh.
Yeah, we're having the same issues, the same exact issues with the crew. It's tough already with the growth that we've had. Implementing the carrot, I don't feel they deserve the carrot. I mean, it's all stick here. So I can't, I don't agree with that, but I mean, I agree with the stick portion of it, but not the carrot. And so, there's a little bit of, I have a little bit of reservations with that. And
Yeah.
can you think of any specific examples without naming specific names of where this has been implemented
Yeah.
and worked? That's
Aaron,
my thought process.
I'll tell you this. I'm like flashing back as you're saying this, where one time we were
Mhm.
in a team meeting, like the coaches with Robert Redmond, because we do training too and have team meetings, and we're getting advice from Robert, and we're telling him, hey, we've implemented the carrot and the stick. Their guys still aren't doing what we need them to do. What's going on? And Robert looks at me and goes, we shouldn't have to incentivize people to show up to work on freaking time. That's just part of the job requirements. And so, like, it's totally okay to have just consequences for certain things. Like, this is your job. This is a bare minimum. Like, you should be doing this. I shouldn't have to incentivize it. Now, if somebody's doing something extraordinary, if they are bringing in way more revenue than everybody else, like way more than what's the standard, if they aren't having any callbacks on their jobs, if they're finishing their jobs early or under budget, like let's incentivize those behaviors because that isn't the basic bare minimum. That's going beyond. But it's totally okay to just have sticks for things that are like, you should be doing this no matter what. This is like bare requirement of your job. And then we
Yeah.
incentivize things that are like above and beyond. We want to encourage that behavior.
Yeah. I would add to
Another
that.
thought I had. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to add to that the public praise of people that are doing the standard consistently, or they're kind of your guy that you can start to lean on, that builds up that desire to be one of those guys as well. Nicole talked about earlier, the scoreboard, being able to see and having a little bit of that competitiveness to it. Even your public praise of like, hey, Aaron here has been really my star pupil, or whatever you want to call him. But he's really been the guy that I've been able to lean on because he has had no callbacks in the past 3 months. And then, now I'm giving him a $50 gift card to a steakhouse for his family because he's been just consistently doing the right things. Even simple stuff like that doesn't have to be a formal, consistent incentive program, but making public praise a part of the routine too gets people to really want to follow through.
Now, when we implement this, do we open with acknowledgements, right? Do we start off? That's one thing. That's one thought I had, because I had the team come in for some safety training for some government work that we're doing, and I trained everybody on the safety requirements and kind of got them acclimated to thinking that way, and just let them know, had them sign new policy. And I was actually going to bring up the all the callbacks we had. I had the list ready, but I didn't have a formal structure set up, and I didn't have anything to kind of to balance that. And so I had my reservation about it, and I said, you know what, I've already had them here a couple hours. I think we'll let them process this new change, and then I'm going to kind of tackle it a bit more structured. And then a thought, something that came up during my meeting with Nicole this week was, or last week, was I had the idea, and this is just based on other structures, where you kind of have a 1099 employee, or you have an employee that's making a less than average pay, and it's basically both. It's an incentivized program, but they have a base pay, and so performance based. So if the standard's $30 an hour for a guy, pay him, get him to agree to come in for 15, 20, and then incentivize it's a performance based. So then they can reach further, right? And they can attain their average and go above average if they want. And I
We
really
love
liked that.
merit-based pay.
Yeah, exactly. Merit-based pay. That's what I was looking for.
Love merit-based pay.
Does anybody else have that structure in their company at this current time?
I'm looking through my or the clients here, and I'm trying to see. I think Arnold's Plumbing does a little bit of merit-based pay. I wish Alicorp Plumbing was here. They do a really good job with it. What I would encourage, Aaron, I know I'm your coach, but anybody here, I would talk to your coach about what individual positions you want to do merit-based pay around, because sometimes it's a little bit different depending on the industry and depending on the position that the person's in, like how you're going to incentivize potentially a project manager may be different than how you incentivize like a helper or a technician. Um, and so I would talk to your coach and we can define merit-based pay. I know for a lot of my service guys, it's hey, for each truck, like each technician, each van that you're in, this is how much revenue you need to be bringing in per week. If you have a helper with you, this is how much more we expect to see with you having a helper. And if you exceed that, you get a certain amount for every $500 over that minimum. And we don't cap it because why the heck would we want to? You know, we want to incentivize them. Now that's within a 40-hour work week. If they're, you know, they're not going to get double if they're doing overtime and, you know, producing. So there's always caveats. With project managers, I mentioned it earlier, if they get jobs done early, on time, under budget, on budget, you know, there's certain incentivizes you can have for like crew leads, project managers, that type of thing as well. Yeah, Arnold's Plumbing, he says that they do bonuses for meeting the revenue numbers that they produce. I also know he incentivizes them with Google review bonuses as well. I think he does a monthly competition too, so you get paid per bonus you get, plus whoever gets the most, you know, reviews gets a little extra as well. But there's a lot of different type of merit-based pay that we can work with. Bran, your hand's been up for a hot minute, sir. Let's get to you. What's going on?
Yeah, I'm glad that's a digital hand. I would be so.
Yeah, I'll be holding it.
So we do remodels, additions, ADUs, that sort of thing, larger projects. And, you know, David was talking about growing the team and adding more team members. We're considering going to a different model of being just a core group, a project manager, just a couple of guys, maybe 3 or 4, but none of them laborers or anything, having everything subbed out. Just curious about anybody else that maybe has gone through that, gone from running teams to just a core team or started that way. Just kind of speak to that. If there's anybody else who's done that or is doing that.
I wish Robert Redmond was on this call because I know that that's how he runs their remodeling companies. They sub everything out, except for like him and the main guy. Anybody have feedback? Any clients currently running that model where you're subbing everything out?
Well, I can speak to how I'm doing it right now. And I'd love to hear a little bit more how you guys would recommend it. But I have a team lead. Basically, it's kind of a commercial structure, but for residential. So you have your general manager. So it's the ownership point of contact only. And then he has his foreman, which is basically knows all the mechanics of the whole project. And then the foreman runs all the guys. Like he's the lead supervisor on site. And then that foreman communicates with the senior project manager that I communicate with. So there's a chain of communication that's done. And then that's why, you know, having those team meetings established and all that is really critical. So creating that core group and then fanning that out to certain leads, and then those leads hold everybody accountable. And the key factor is that everyone is accountable for their job in each one of those points.
That's huge.
If one of those things break down, I saw that last year, it's catastrophic. So something to really pay special attention to. And then I think the other thing is too, when it comes to costing and profitability, and I know everyone's kind of putting out the 70-30 or different profit models, but my question is how we do it normally is people are paid by scope of work, and we don't have, if we're doing the subcontracting model, that is, so we don't have any employees. But how do you keep those direct cost allocations for management in check as things become variable? That's my question.
The very tail end, David, I want to make sure I understand what you're asking. In the subcontracting model, the direct costs becoming variable. Is that what you said?
Yeah, my question is when you're calculating your overall profit and your cost of goods sold is changing, but you want to allocate management to the direct cost of a project, and that might be some of your overhead and profit included in that. How do you calculate your profitability on the job using that model?
Let's see. So if I'm understanding it correctly, then you really, I mean, there's not necessarily a different way to calculate it. You're still going to find it by taking all of your costs, and then what you have left is your profitability. But my concern more is with the estimating side. Are you controlling the prices that you bid, or your subcontractors giving the price to the customer?
I'm controlling the prices, but I'm negotiating that with only the first person in the chain.
With
Okay.
the subs.
Okay. So then it has to be accounted for with a line item. You can still attribute, let me pull up our estimate tool. One moment here. Okay. So this is really kind of our litmus test tool to make sure when someone has pricing and we get to have eyes on it, that they're pricing in a way that we can be confident is profitable. It's meant to be pretty simplistic, but it just accounts for the main areas of the business and in each job that you're bidding. So you have your materials cost, basically your receipts for those. Then equipment and subcontractors, this would be what your subcontractor's telling you that they're owed. And then you still have a spot here for labor. Even if that's not labor in terms of drywalling, painting, whatever. This is also for your project manager as well, if they're putting direct hours into that project. And you do a true labor rate, not just what you're paying them. True labor rate includes an hourly figure for benefits if you have those included.
And if you look at the bottom of the spreadsheet, you'll see we have a tab labeled True Labor Rate Calculator, which will help you figure that one out. If you do not know what your true labor rate is, just answer the questions on that. Formulas do the work for you. We have Bryce to thank for that.
So it should, if I'm understanding correctly, then this is what I'm seeing is that spot for you to include that price. And that goes into your total cost of goods sold before you add your margin for your profit, which we have titled here the contracting fee. And then this line item is actually a little bit mislabeled. This is for your indirect costs. This is your overhead more so than it is your project management piece. But that 10% could also account for that if you're not putting it up here. You just don't want to double dip. Did that get at the question you were asking, David, or still more on that?
Yeah, that's really the point that I'm focusing in right now on, and thank you for clarifying that.
Cool.
And then back to my question is Robert the only one kind of running that model, or is there anybody else?
I know Brace across it. I could name several of my clients. I don't know if they're here right now, Brent. And I'm like going through the list trying to find them because I know several of them do.
I work solely on subcontractors.
Sweet.
And you just run a small, just you and an admin or a couple people, just 3-4 you, or just yourself?
It's well, Nicole and I are working together on that one, but yeah, right now it's just me. It's been just me for about 3 years now, with just me and the subcontractors, and my life has gotten a lot easier that way. I had a bigger business before, and I was working for them. That's a whole other complaint, but now it's much easier in the sense that I know what they're charging me. I pay them by the day, and we kind of go over it. And I already know them because I've been with them for 3 years. So I already know how long it's going to take them to do certain jobs. So I could just go in and bid it and say, I know this is going to take this much. So I just take that off the price, and I know what I need to make for profit. So then that's how I base it upon. So, sometimes there's issues where he has to go back and he'll take care of that. He gets paid a decent amount of money, but he's a subcontractor. So it is what it is. He's got to take care of his own taxes.
Yeah. I'll say, Bryn, we have a lot of general contractors where it's like the owner, a project
Yeah.
manager / salesperson, or maybe there's one of each, and then like a subcontract everything else out. Like that's kind of, I'm not saying there's a right or wrong there. Like you could totally build your whole team of employees if you want, but I think that can sometimes be the easier model if you have a good amount of subs you can pull from. So
sure.
full support.
And even if you have the model where you're running your own team, there's going to be times when you need to pull subs anyway, because you're at capacity or something in that scope of the project might be a little bit beyond what your team's capable of, so you have to bring somebody in. So very common, and I also could list a lot of clients that I'm working with. They're just not necessarily here in this call that are running that model. That's what general contractor kind of technically means. The general contractor is the one that consolidates all the other contractors under them. I don't know if Remodel Wizards of Maryland, you're raising your hand because you also run this model.
Yeah, we do. We have a general manager, we have a salesperson, we have a project manager, and then we have 2 carpenters that do either backup when the sub doesn't show up, which happens, or we send them in to do like fine finish work. And sometimes we have them do the demo if we're worried that the subs are going to mess it up. So that's kind of our structure, but we have found that we're a lot more profitable using subs. We're able to get the same amount of money in terms of sales. But we're making a lot more money because the subs are cheaper than our in-house labor was. So.
Yeah, and I think somebody said it in the beginning, write-up policies, callback policies, working agreements. You can have those with your subs just like you can an employee. So don't feel like you are handicapped because they are a sub. Like they are on your job. You set expectations and standards. And if you need any of those things, reach out to your coach because we have those things. John, I see your hand up.
Yeah, just it's relevant to me. Ultimately, I want to get a couple of employees, full-time project manager, but totally focused on subcontracting everything and crisping up and tightening up my processes, my agreements. I have found in the last year that going deeper with a smaller number of subcontractors and getting the relationship to the point where they appreciate the volume that I'm giving them goes a long way. They're much more willing to sign my agreements and my contracts when they know that I'm going to be giving them.
Oh no, John, you froze. You froze.
Did I really?
You did.
You're back.
I do that to clients often, and then they're like, "Nicole, you're talking to yourself," and I was like, yeah.
Well, what everything I just said was golden. So we'll just
I wrote it all down.
I love it. Well, guys, the participation today has been freaking phenomenal. Like, love you guys come to this call with wins. A lot of times wins goes into questions and learning. So like, love that, especially going into our next group coaching call, which will not be next week. It'll be the 2nd. Come to that with your numbers if you have them, for the year. Would love to celebrate those wins with you as we go into 2025. If you have any questions about anything we discussed today, please reach out to your coach. We're more than happy to get you any documents you may have missed or elaborate on anything that you didn't catch completely. But we are just wishing you guys an absolutely Merry Christmas and a wonderful New Year. We are so grateful to you guys, our clients, and having this time with you guys every week is really special to us as coaches, being able to talk with you guys and hear those wins, and we're just grateful for you. Wishing you guys the absolute best. We're going to close out this group call with a big 3, 2, 1 growth. So if I could get everybody to unmute. It's our last one of 2024, guys. 3, 2, 1. Growth.
Growth.
Bye, guys.